Hey everyone, welcome to The Future in Mind. I'm Izzy, your Gen Z co host, joined by my co host, millennial and cultural anthropologist, Clarissa.
Hi again.
We're continuing our conversation on superpowers, but this time we're getting more in touch with our creative side.
That's right. Today we're talking about how making things, art, music, anything creative, can help us feel more grounded, calmer, and more like ourselves.
The connection between practicing art or other creative activities and its mood boosting abilities was a top topic in our latest Gen Z survey, coming in at 31%. It makes sense why this would be an important topic. As we've discussed in season 1, Gen Z is dealing with stress, burnout, and emotional overload, but exploring one's creativity can serve as a grounding practice or a way to release or process emotions without words. I know for me, when I feel overwhelmed, music helps me feel grounded. But in addition to that, I find myself doodling, coloring, or doing repetitive activities like practicing my signature in my journal.
Those repetitive activities have a way of resetting the nervous system, helping us slow down and focus on one thing. I know whenever I work on my cross stitch projects, the repetitive motion of the needle going in and out of the fabric helps me focus on my breathing and not feel so overwhelmed with everything else going on around me.
I also find that when I'm feeling stuck, whether it's with school, work, or a problem I'm having with my friends, if I take some time to take a break and create something with my hands, like jewelry or friendship bracelets, it helps me see things differently.
Sometimes exploring our emotions through our creativity can be more helpful than talking it out and allows us to come up with solutions or see things from a new perspective.
Exactly. And even activities we don't always consider to be creative can have that effect on us. I personally don't consider myself a creative person, but a lot of different activities can help us express that part of ourselves.
I feel the same way. You don't have to be an artist to let your creative side come out. Other creative activities that reduce anxiety can include singing, making playlists, dancing, cooking, or even doing a DIY project in your bedroom. According to Culturati's latest Gen Z report, Unlocking Gen Z 3.0, 53% of Gen Z say decorating or personalizing their space brings them joy, while 47% say cooking or baking is an activity that brings them joy.
These are creative practices that you maybe thought didn't count at first, but the reality is that exploring your creativity doesn't have to be high pressure and is something you can benefit from even if you don't feel artistically inclined.
Our guest today understands firsthand the benefits of exploring creativity, not just as a personal practice, but as something that can genuinely support mental and emotional well being.
She works directly with adults and children using art as a therapeutic tool, helping people process emotions, reduce stress, and reconnect with themselves through making things.
And what makes her perspective especially powerful is that she doesn't just believe in creativity, she lives it. As an artist, she's experienced how creating with your hands can be grounding, regulating, and healing. And as someone who works in marketing and audience intelligence, she works closely with people and their behaviors. She's seen how deeply creativity can meet a very real human need from both a personal and professional perspective.
So today, we're excited to talk with someone who has discovered this superpower of being at the intersection of art, emotional health, and understanding people. We're joined today by Courtney Minor, a visual artist and the founder of the CMD Studio, where she creates bold, expressive work and uses art as a tool for reflection, healing, and connection. In addition to her work as an artist, Courtney also facilitates art therapy with both adults and children, helping people use creativity to process emotions, manage stress, and explore what they're feeling, sometimes without needing words at all. Alongside her creative practice, Courtney brings a deep understanding of people and culture through her role as a senior director and head of audience intelligence marketing shared services at Gap Inc., where she studies human behavior, emotional drivers, and what people need in moments of change. Today, though, we're really excited to lean into her perspective as an artist and creative practitioner, and to talk about why making art, listening to music, and creating things can be such a powerful support for our mental health in discovering our superpowers. Courtney, welcome to the Future in Mind. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you. I'm so excited to talk to you all and um, unleash.
How did creativity and art first become meaningful in your life?
I have been creative since I was young. I remember telling my mom and dad I wanted to be an artist. I just had, the same imposter syndrome and trauma that everyone does when they get to their high school and college years and decided not to. But um, I kind of rekindled that clearly. Now I'm a professional artist. And I mean, it has so much meaning in my life. It's helped me through some of my biggest personal struggles. It's helping me now. Um, because I treat it like therapy. And then I didn't even know art therapy was a thing. I just knew I was using it like that. So yeah, it's very meaningful for me. It's deeply personal, and I just try to keep creating what's in my heart and what I feel. And if it's happens to be commercially viable, yay! But it's really just more about me and what it means to me.
So, Courtney, maybe you can share a little bit more about how art has helped you through periods of stress, burnout, or uncertainty.
Absolutely. Stress. I mean, I had a well, I mean, even now, like I'm under a bit of stress right now because I'm dealing with some family issues. And I have a scrapbook, like a little artist book right here. And I've been doing watercolors just to kind of be a stress relief. And this is significant for me because I typically do mixed media collage and graffiti. So it's a little bit more graphic and structural, like some of the pieces you see behind me, where I'm like writing words and pasting images. And I do my own photography, and there's lots of layers, like sometimes 15 to 20 layers in each piece, but it doesn't look like it's that many. And so, with the later years, especially this year, when I've been needing that artistic release, I think because so much of my mixed media has become a second job for me. Now, when I need to de-stress, I don't feel like doing collage anymore or doing the written word. I started doing just freehand watercolors, and I do it because with watercolors, you can't almost impossible to control the movement of a watercolor. You have to, whatever restraint or control that you use in your artistic practice, the watercolors are the complete opposite of it. So you have to kind of let go and just be organic and let it be free. And it's really spoken to me these last few months, with all the personal stresses as well as work stress that's gone on, because you kind of have to just let it be. You have to just let it go. Like, and I think for anyone who's like maybe a type A, I'm not a type A, but I am decently like organized to keep my day job or I'd be fired. But that amount of, like, I call it linear thinking that you have to be in corporate America and to be in a more high powered corporate job. If you're a creative person or any type of person that's not type A, you kind of have to force yourself into a mold. And when I paint with watercolors, it allows me to break free, because I know a lot of people who like extreme structure, they hate watercolors. I used to like, it's not that I hated it, I just never tried it because I didn't like the idea that I couldn't control it. But then I realized the only way for me to relax and really like kind of melt is to kind of let go. And I was like, what better medium than watercolors to do that? Um, and it's interesting because, like I said, I've been making watercolors both in my scrapbook here, as well as I've gotten some larger sheets of watercolor paper in my art studio. It's both my typical form, like it looks like I made it, but at the same token, it's so different from what I make because it's very abstract. It's very free form. It's like stream of consciousness writing, but with paint and water. Like, it's the only way I could describe it. Um, the way I feel doing watercolors is the way I feel when I do yoga or when I practice. I'm a very big Pilates person. So Pilates, I get my stretch in, but yoga, I kind of like let go. Like, I'm very new age, hippy dippy, ASMR, listen to sound baths. I'm that person, 1000%. And I know people tease me about it. I just don't care, because my day job, working at Gap Inc., is so intense, and it's so analytical and very numbers and statistics driven. And for me, who is truly a creative person, the only way I can relax is to completely turn off from what I do from my day job, or like during my lunch break. Sometimes when I have breaks between meetings, that's why I keep it right near me. I'll just like doodle a little something. Like I did, no one can see this, it's a podcast, but the ones, if you're watching me on the Zoom, if you ever see this, like I do these little doodles literally between my conference calls because I have a travel watercolor kit, and it my mental health has just gone through the roof in positive like levels since I started not just doodling but doing watercolors even during the workday. And of course, it doesn't take away from my job because like sometimes I'm just literally just releasing right quick. Like when some people take a break and they go eat junk food for 15, 30 minutes, I usually will walk out because I work from home. I'll walk out on my front stoop, very New York, very Jersey, sit on my stoop, and I just do a little doodle of watercolor. And the beauty of watercolor is like I'll just plop a little bit on the page. It's moving and rolling around, and I'm like, well, that feels free. And I let it dry after a few minutes, and I go back to my conference call, and I come back, and I'm like, ooh, let me add another layer. And yeah, like before I used to be so tense. Like I still get a lot of massages. I'm very thankful and blessed to be able to afford them because this economy is rough. But there was a time like my younger days where I couldn't afford to go get a massage. And I wish I had watercolors like this because it really forces you to use a part of your brain and let go of a part of your restraint that is not nurtured in corporate life.
I like your perspective on the watercolor because I don't consider myself to be a very artistic person, but I have gotten into cross stitch, and cross stitch is like the opposite, right? Like you're following a pattern. It's very like technical. You have to sort of figure out your, yeah, like a strategy to like make it like the backside look good or look similar to the front, to make it nice and neat. But maybe that's because I'm a qual person in my day job and I have to be a little bit more creative in my day job. And so I like the structure
hmm
in my art. I don't know.
No, it's a very real thing. One of my closest friends, who I won't name on this podcast because she'll kill me, but she also has a very high powered, very technical, detailed job that affects thousands of people, right? And she's recently taken up, which shocks me 'cause she's like a type A, like consultant type, right? She's taken up woodworking and interior design. And this is someone that is a self proclaimed not a creative person. But to see her blossom the way she has, it really goes to that theory you just spoke about that a lot of people, when they do take up hobbies that are truly relaxing for them, it engages the part of them that they don't do in their day job. So because me and that friend's job is very technical in two different ways, we let loose in other ways. And because now my mixed media collage and graffiti in a way has become another career, I've been doing the watercolors to actually relax from that. But though it's not stressful, it's like, okay, this is unlocking a side of me that used to make me very uncomfortable. That's why I didn't even try.
I remember when I was a little kid, I used to do a lot of watercolor, but I feel like I've kind of just gone so focused on school, I forgot about art, and I think I should start like doing something because I don't know, I don't take any art classes at school, so I feel like I need to kind of exercise that part of my brain.
You should. I mean, I'm self taught. So my only art instruction was from, I think, fifth grade, sixth grade. I forget my art teacher's name. Wonderful woman. I went to Trafton Academy in Houston, Texas. And I remember she taught me about all the major artists, including a lot of female artists, because I think she knew I was a feminist before I knew I was a feminist. I didn't know what that meant. So I learned about like Mary Cassatt and Georgia O'Keeffe, and I didn't learn a lot about a lot of Black artists, which wasn't her fault. She just, I don't think, focused on that. But as I got older, my mom made it a big effort to make sure I knew about people of color, all types of artists. And then also I had a friend at the time who introduced me to not Marie, Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera, which is, I think that is what got me going into Mexico as often as I do. And just artists from Mexico, from the from the African continent. There's so many countries in Africa and a lot of great artists there. And my mom lived in Eastern Europe, so a lot of Eastern European artists she put me on. And yeah, but I say all that to say that with you, Izzy, like art should be fun. It should be easy. And there's some artists I know they get so frustrated because it doesn't look exactly like what's in their head. And I learned a long time ago to let that go because sometimes what you end up creating by accident is way better than what was in your head. And like I say that as someone who I don't know your full background in high school, but I went to a specialty high school. Like I went to an engineering high school. They also had a medical science academy. Like you can't get more technical than I was. I was always like the, National Honor Society, Math Honor Society. I was that girl. But I just had this strong creative side where I was also part of the Art Honor Society. And I always fiddled and tinkered and doodled with things. And it really helps give you a balanced life. I think more people who are very technical should find something that relaxes them, but maybe embraces their strengths because it can really help with your mental health. I mean, it doesn't mean you can't do a technical job. Look at me. I'm a professional artist, but I head up audience intelligence for marketing, shared service, the gap. Like you can't get more technical than probably what I'm doing. I have data scientists that work for me, but you gotta rest that part of your brain so you can recharge, so you can go back to doing both of them. You need both, or else you'll burn out. Oh, you asked me about burnout. Here we are. Yeah, you'll burn out, and I've suffered burnout, and it's not fun. So, Izzy, do it. Go find something you like and do it. It doesn't have to be complicated.
How do you know when you need to create? What is your source of or sources of inspiration?
Oh my. Well, up until about a year ago, every time I created, it sadly was triggered by something a bit traumatic or dark, which isn't a good thing. So that goes back to the art therapy. So when I first started creating, this was 2019. I should be clear. Even though I took art classes when I was very young, I didn't really create art until like 7 years ago, like doing what you see now. Like I went from nothing. I was like you, Izzy. I was very focused on my technical and I wanted to get promoted and I got promoted and I did all the stuff. And then I looked up one day and I just felt unfulfilled. And at first I thought, well, maybe I need to go change my profession and do a creative job. I even considered it even like 2, 3 years ago again, because like I always go back and forth. But I realized that, sometimes you just need to keep certain parts of your lives separate and some things integrated. And only the individual knows what you need to do. But when I was about 7 years ago, I was just trying to figure out what was missing in my life. And I was having a rough time, actually, a gap. And I thought, oh, I'm going to leave. I really did. They all know this. It's not a secret. I was thinking about leaving. And I like did something crazy. I went on a very long vacation, which was not part of my PTO plan. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get fired. But I went to Vietnam for like basically a month, which again, at that level, wasn't supposed to do that. But I did it anyway. And I was like, I'll deal with the consequences when I return. You know, hopefully I have a job. Hopefully they are nice to me, which they were. But on that trip is when I rekindled my love of art. And I started, I was doing photography at the time with my iPhone. And I was taking both pictures of people and street scenes around me, as well as doing my own self portraits, selfies. But I would do them in a way, because at the time I didn't know what a tripod was. I just would tilt it and angle it in a way where it just looked like someone else took a photo of me. And some of the photos, I was like, oh, this could be really cool as like something. And I got it printed out. And before you know it, was making collages in my little Airbnb in Vietnam. I was in Ho Chi Minh City, Saigon. And when I came back, others encouraged me to keep creating. And so I did. And it's been really great. It's been the best thing that's probably ever happened to me is connecting with my creativity because I went from feeling monotonous to going to work every day knowing that I had so much more to do in the world and care about in the world other than trying to chase a promotion. And it kind of translated because like I figured out how to like with my skill set at work, I figured out like, oh, if I need to go freelance, I can go freelance. Cause you know, I thought I was gonna get fired. Right. So I was like, well, I'll do freelance. I'll be maybe be a qualitative moderator or do something like that. And then I'll maybe make some art, you know? Um, but with that, at least for me, came a level of a mental freedom because I almost felt like I was like in this like mental jail for years after college. And I knew I was trapped, but I didn't know how to get out. And ironically, focusing on the skill sets that I had in my day job and figuring out, oh, I could do freelance work. I could be a gig worker if I needed to be. I could be a consultant if I needed to be, was great. But then tapping into creating my art, which was I was using to relax, and discovering, oh, I could actually make this a career. I can make this a business. It really gave me a very strong sense of, I guess, freedom. Like I felt free for the first time, probably ever. And I'm a pretty independent person, pretty venturesome, but knowing that I could just I always had in the back of my mind, I was always worried that with my day job, with my corporate job, if I lost it, I used to be terrified. And when you live like with that terror, with that fear, you're always tense, you're always worried, you're always on edge, you're kind of being not your authentic self because you're putting on like a like almost not a false personality, but a veneer so that you're appealing to the people you work with. And then when I came back from Vietnam, that veneer that was gone because one, I thought I was going to lose my job, so I just like I was just literally just completely being myself. Like I wasn't like unprofessional, but I wasn't trying to be anyone that I wasn't. That was the first bit. The second bit was is a very there's a edge like I keep using the word freedom. There's this sense of freedom when you know that even though you're working on this corporate job, if they let you go, you're like, okay, that's cool. I can just lean into my art business. I can maybe do graphic design. I could also lean into my insights experience and be freelance. Like I had a backup plan, but it was a backup plan that was like rooted in authenticity, even though that sounds cliche, it's real. Um, and do once I tapped into my hobbies, which became a little bit more, it made my actual corporate life and work life, I became a much better employee because then I wasn't on edge all the time. I wasn't worried all the time. It was more like I was just doing and trying new things. I kind of became like a phoenix. Like I just spread my wings. And I feel like that change in my mentality was like the domino effect that pushed me to leave what I consider traditional consumer insights and even go into what I'm doing now because it's out of the box. It's a very niche but forward thinking way of working. But I don't even think I would have attempted it had I not discovered my true self through art and learning my skills, like what my skill set was.
How does creativity help people process things they can't articulate? And why is this important in today's world for people, particularly Gen Z?
Well, with art, whether you're naturally creative or someone who's just trying to branch into it, it just helps you show what oftentimes you can't explain. And I say that as a true creative. Like there are many times I've been in conference rooms and I'm trying to explain an idea I have. And this happened to me throughout my career from when I graduated from college to even like honestly a few weeks ago. And I used to think, oh, well, if I can't explain this in this linear way and put it in a PowerPoint deck, then I just can't succeed. I can't, you know, thrive in this world. And then that's when I say, you know what, forget this. I'm a visual person. I'm going to use the greatest asset that I have. So now, oftentimes, if I have an idea, I'll just say, hey, you know what? I'm better if I draw it. I'm better if I write it down. And I'll grab a piece of paper, I'll find a dry erase board, and I'll just start drawing. And I'll just explain the idea, even if it's just a diagram. And when I unlocked that side of myself, which I always had it, but when I started doing my art, I became like more uninhibited so that I could express my ideas clearly because I don't really think in a straight line. Most creative thinkers don't. We think more like wibbly wobbly, but we have to translate everything to a straight line. But what I find is that a lot of people who are straight line thinkers, linear thinkers, they have a lot of trouble thinking of big ideas. And so I'm like, well, I can't always explain these big ideas to people who are very linear and very analytical, but I can draw it, I can diagram it, I can visualize it. And so what I started doing is doing that in my corporate job, and whew, everything changed. Everything changed quickly when I just leaned into what I was good at. So that's one piece. The second piece is I'm 41. I graduated, I don't know, 2006, I think. I don't know. That was like college. I can't remember. It's a long time ago, Izzy. Well, I'm way older than you. But that being said, I've changed my career at least 4 or 5 times. Oh, like I remember people being stressed out about their major when they were in college or if they chose to go to college. And I was like, it's not over till it's over. Like you can always evolve and change your mind. I'm a big believer in that. My father was that way. He changed his career like 3 times in that time period during civil rights. When, as a black man, that was like unheard of. He was like, I'm going to do it. And he kind of taught me to be the same way. Um, and I'm a very big fan of, which is very anti corporate. I stress that, but I encourage it on my anyone who reports to me is that you anyone can be a multi hyphenate. So there's no rule, in my opinion, that says that you can't be this and this and this at the same time. Like people thought you couldn't be a visual artist and an audience intelligence leader, as well as I'm also a photographer. I also do ethnography. I also make miniature films. I also do content curation. I do all of those things, right? And I think like when I've talked to some of my relatives who are younger than me and different ones I mentor who are like I have a few people that I mentor that are in high school, some that are in college. They're always worried about like, oh, but I'm really into this, I'm really into that. I'm like, there's no rule that says you can't do a little bit of both or find a way to merge them or separate them. Like, who told you that? Who said that because you decide to go to school for accounting because you really like accounting means you can't do content creation anymore? Please do it. Maybe combine the two, maybe separate the two. Like, I don't know. I don't believe in keeping things too narrow. Like you can do a variety. Just, don't overwhelm yourself. Like I had to be very conscious where I have a lot of different hobbies, but I also have a personal life. I have a partner, like romantic partner. I'm also a daughter. I'm also just a person who, like, even though I have 10 different hobbies, that's not realistic. So I narrowed it from 10 to like a solid. Now I focus on like 2 to 3. And I have like my day job, I have my art career. And with each of those, I have things that like it's the main part and the fun part. And that's how I learned to maintain balance while also not locking myself into like a little like corner because you don't want to feel like you're constrained. As a creative person, as a free thinker, as someone who's beginning your life, you don't have to constrain yourself, but you do have to make sure that you branch out, you check out everything you want to check out, and then to keep your life a little bit more balanced so that you don't burn out, you then rein it back in. But the key thing is don't rein it back into one. That's not fun. Rein it back into like two or three. It doesn't have to just be a hobby. That's another thing. That's why I'm very big on multi hyphenates. And I feel like I was the oddball in my generation. Well, not my generation, but generations before me who were like, you focus on one career and you do this. I just never thought that way. It is just not how I'm built. And I try to make sure that everyone knows if you're more like me, you can still lead a very successful life and be different because I'm different.
It's like super interesting because I never really thought of it that way. Like I feel like my entire life I've been like I'll have one job and then like that's kind of like what my whole focus is gonna be when I grow up. And I don't know. I mean I feel like it's kind of like obvious you can have like other things, but like in my mind I just never really like thought about it. So I find it very interesting.
Yeah. There's no, the only reason people think you can do only one thing and that's the only thing you can do for the rest of your life is because a lot of people could, there are some people that can only do one thing, but there are some people that can do more than one thing. So if you really recognize that you're that person, well, let it fly. Once I broke free, opportunities that I never even dreamed of have come my way, including like I'm doing this podcast where it talks about my worlds. Like I'm speaking at a conference later this year. I'm speaking at two conferences, one that's technical and one that's art related. But the art related one is technical because I've leaned into public art where you need to understand and use some of my engineering background, use my technical background, but I'm also the lead designer on some of these public art projects. So you just never know where your passion and your work will intersect to become something you never even knew existed.
I love it. So, Courtney, it seems like you have found a variety of different ways um, to sort of calm your mind and to sort of like access your creativity. Um, what about like, okay, so thinking about moments when life sort of feels out of control, how can creativity act as a kind of coping superpower?
I mean, I'll give you the perfect examples right now. So right now I'm dealing with a personal like family tragedy, literally right now. And I am immensely sad behind it. And the first thing I did was I was like, I needed my mind to be to think about anything else than that, at least for a little while. And so I just started watercoloring, getting my mind off of it, knowing, but it's always there. It's been helping me cope. And so I'll go for a walk and I'll bring my little book with me. Sometimes I'll photograph, sometimes like that's how I cope. I might take a picture, I might get an idea, I might look at some clouds, I might paint. I might go build something. Sometimes I build a lot of things. I build sculptures. Um, but it helps calm my mind and it helps me cope with the realities of life. Even but not run away from them. Like you don't want to do something so much that you disassociate and run away because life is tough right now, and I think a lot of us want to disassociate, but you can't fully disassociate because then you might miss the things that matter. So you just have to. That's why I say it's better to cope and kind of relax and calm, but still be aware, still be alert, because there's going to be times where you need to snap back in and speak up when the time comes when you need to speak up, especially in this climate. Like you got to make your voice heard. You know.
Going off of the same topic, but sort of switching gears a little bit. So, thinking about your work in marketing and audience intelligence, what have you seen about why people are so drawn to art or music during moments of stress or uncertainty? And how has that shown up in your experience?
What I picked up during COVID is the world was in chaos, and the thing that kept people going was a lot of the artists and the creatives who were making content to just for them to escape and to help others escape. Like I think about some of the Zoom DJ sessions. Like one of my favorite DJs is Diplo. He was spinning on his Zoom, but that's a form of creativity and bringing it to the world. And that's why streaming content, Netflix, Prime Video, everything went through the roof because the best way to distract when you're just in a state of chaos is to just go to a fantasy land. And the best way to go to fantasy land is usually viewing a film, watching a binging a TV series, reading a book. I mean, what was it that everybody kept making? Was it banana bread? Suddenly everybody was a pastry chef during COVID.
Sourdough.
But sourdough, like everyone was doing that. But the reason they were doing it is because human nature at its core needs coping mechanisms. And the best mechanisms are often artistic, even if people don't recognize it as artistic. Because art is more than just painting. Art is movement, it's expression, it's making, it's creating, it's thinking outside the box. And I feel like COVID, that whole 3 horrible years where we were locked in those houses, the thing that I feel like got a lot of people through were got a lot of people through that time period were the artists that were putting their art in the world and also creating community.
I noticed your Better in Denim campaign with Cat's Eye and more recently Sweats Like This with Young Miko. It feels like Gap is really leaning into music and culture, especially with young artists. How does music show up in your creative process or even in your day-to-day life?
Yeah. I have to give credit to my colleagues, Calvin and Fabi. They're the heads of creative and marketing for Gap brand. And Calvin especially, he's a creative powerhouse. Um, but that being said, music is a huge part of how I create and how I work. Like even in my day job, I always have music blasting in the background. Always. It's part of the reason why I got these AirPods. So I wouldn't disturb everyone. Whether in my art studio or not, because I love music. Music is a big piece of how I create. And most artists I know, because my art studio, Mana Contemporary, Mana Mana. We have two open houses twice a year. When you go there, depending on the time of day or night, you're gonna hear music blasting because I most artists blast or play music while they create. For me, it gets me in a space, and like I have such a range of tastes. So like I like modern classical quite a bit. So I love people like Max Richter, Johan Johansson. I also like more new age. I grew up listening to Enya, so I listen to Enya. I like the XX, like people like that. But then I also love like Florence and the Machine. I'm gonna go see them at the end of the month. Yeah, there's just so many genres. I love electro pop. I love Lady Gaga. I love everything, right? And I just have those playlists usually blasting through my AirPods while I create because it kind of gets me out of my headspace. Anything that was rummaging through my head during the workday, I just put on my AirPods and it's like I'm in a whole different world. The imagery I'll create, sometimes it'll be like full body, sometimes it'll be otherworldly. That's all tied usually to the music I'm listening to. Um, and if I had a rough day and I just want to decompress, and whatever I'm listening to, that becomes part of the art. Like there's really no way to avoid it. Like art and music go hand in hand.
What's a song or type of music that instantly changes your state?
Oh, it's probably my favorite song. Every time I put it on, my whole vibe changes. So it's called On the Nature of Daylight by Max Richter. I mean, if you look at my Spotify, I replay that song usually a couple thousand times in a year. I love that song and it's so haunting. It's so mellow. I have a full playlist that I call my art studio vibes. I could just send it to you. Like it's all over the place though. I warn you.
I love it. We could put it in our show notes.
From a marketer's perspective, what can brands learn from the way creativity supports people emotionally, especially during moments of stress, identity building, or uncertainty?
Marketers, what they can learn is how to connect and really be relevant and engage in a relevant way. So sometimes we, especially from like low level marketing versus high level marketing, and low level, I mean like when you're doing just basic content creation and creating templates versus high level, you're creating a campaign, but it's not rooted in a true human insight. You usually just miss the plot. And so, what I tell every marketer when I'm either in my insights role and they're asking me for feedback on their latest ad they created, and they're like, "Why does no one like it?" I'm like, "Well, did you like it when you made it, or were you just following the brief? A brief that was written very generically. Like, if it's not rooted in a real human insight, it's not gonna resonate. It's not gonna go viral. People won't care. Like, some of the best viral content, best ads I've seen were the ones that were just very rough, that were something that, like, people made on their iPhone, and but it just resonated because it was rooted in like a joke that everyone understood in that culture, or an insight like, everybody's tired, or everyone's stressed out, or everyone's really, really worried about this particular topic, and they make a joke of it. I think that's why I always resonate highly with comedians, because comedians are able to call out that human insight, whether it's a joke that is negative or positive. It resonates, it triggers a human reaction, and I feel like great advertising, great marketing should do the same. Very little does. Very little does. That's why I actually was really excited with the Gap brand, because look, it's my job. We own four brands. We own Old Navy, we own Gap brand, we own Athleta, and we own Banana Republic. But with Gap brand, they tapped into this idea. Like, I remember announcing how MTV and everything was going away, right? MTV was a staple of 90s culture. Like, everyone watched MTV. That's where you heard your latest music. Whereas with streaming, that's taken away, or it's just taken away, right? So now most generation is younger than me, and now adults, we get our music content from YouTube or Vimeo or some of those others. That's where you see music videos. It's not from an actual music television channel. So when I look at Gap's ad, they tapped into the idea that our clothes are highly nostalgic for the 90s. We Our historic ads with Sarah Jessica Parker, with Lenny Kravitz, all were rooted in music. The brand's founding ideals were like, they was almost like Urban Outfitters, the original Gap stores. They were very different than they are now. They always had music on rotation. It was always the latest and greatest. So like they rooted in nostalgia and identity. And for all the people who are millennials or Gen X, we remember those ads and we were like, those are super cool. But then putting like Gen Z relevant musicians, and then literally making the music videos that were basically taken away from us and putting it back on TV, because it's not just on YouTube when we're making an ad, we put it everywhere. It's like giving back what was taken away. And I think it was a genius move to basically make all of our ads now music videos, literally, because it helps a young artist who maybe can't get the same production value on their own. Like, it's a win-win. It's a genius idea. And I respect Calvin and the ad agency and Visible Dynamics for what they did. And it was rooted in that human insight of 90s nostalgia, but they did it in a way that was unique to Gap in its DNA.
So, Courtney, as we think about lifestyle brands and as they continue to show up through culture, music, and self expression, what responsibility do you think brands have to actively protect and nurture creativity for Gen Z?
Brands have a responsibility to be good stewards, in my opinion, to humanity. They have a lot of money and they wield a lot of dollars. And if they communicate something, whether subtly or overtly, it can either help or damage. If the message is be your authentic self, create, and just keep creating, I'm 100% for it. But if it's a brand that doesn't communicate any of those things and doesn't understand that they are a platform and a voice, and that they can wield influence over thousands of people, that's a problem. Like, even the smallest brands have a big enough voice to influence the ether. So just do some good with it, which is why I work where I work for my day job. Like, I try to do good. Um, and my job, I will say strongly, pushes creativity, because I mean, think about it. I started a full professional art career that's done quite well. And some companies would have said, you have to choose. You either focus 100% of your time at this job, we feel like it's distracting you. We see you doing this, we saw you doing that. Gap Inc. didn't respond that way to me. They were like, what do you need? And I was like, what do you mean, what do I need? Not every place is like that, encouraging creativity and individualism, but where I work, they do.
Any additional recommendations or final thoughts from a creative and professional perspective?
Let your freak flag fly. Be yourself. If it seems weird, just keep doing it. Just, you never know what it can become.
Courtney, thank you so much for being here today. It was so powerful to hear how creativity supports mental health, not just through making art, but by giving people space to process, feel, and reconnect with themselves. Hopefully, this inspires our listeners to think more creatively and step into their own superpower.
Thank you. Thank you. It was great.
I feel like that conversation really opened up my mind to different possibilities with hobbies. I like how she talked about how random things she experimented with, like dyeing paper towels, have evolved and become part of her art career now.
Yeah, I also enjoyed hearing about how her watercolor hobby has been a sort of escape or opportunity to do things differently from how she normally operates in her professional job and her artwork.
Yeah, that made me sort of want to pick up watercolors.
Same. Thank you to everyone listening. We hope this episode encouraged you to think differently about creativity, not as something you have to be good at, but as something that can support your well being and who you are.
Whether it's art, music, movement, or making something with your hands, creativity can help you slow down, feel grounded, and connect with yourself in moments where things feel overwhelming.
If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to follow the future in mind and check out our other episodes from season 3, where we're continuing to explore Gen Z's superpowers.
Thanks for listening. Take care and keep the future in mind.